Okay, guys, we are off and running.
Hello there, everybody. Good to see you. Good to see you. And who is, of course, Jen and the Birds. You are first. That's wonderful. Robbie, good to see you guys having a nice chat there. It's so adorable. Wonderful, wonderful. Dan, hello. Ron, hope you're doing okay out there. Oh my goodness.
Scott, too.
Hi, Scott. Good to see you. Pinch Runner. Hello. Yes. Oh, Christine Love. I hope that little four-legged angel is super happy. I'm sure he's just delighted.
I see Regina dreaming in Puerto Rico. Achuk Invalid Johnson. Good to see you, Catch Manny. Yes, KK in the house. Interesting, interesting. Karen, great to see you as well. Frankie Big Blue Pup, great to see you too. The earthquake was here at our house. That's where we live in California. Earthquake last night. We wanted you to come here and stay sometime. This would be beautiful, man. Yeah, it makes me want to get out there. Robert, how have you been? Robert Fancher, we will be praying for your farm. We got so many people on the road and, in different locations. We're pretty much know where you guys are, Sin Havoc. Are we about to see the wild side soon? Yeah, it's getting pretty wild. It is escalating. Absolutely. But yes, as Robbie says, Rainbow Warrior Family is here. And we're going to be putting out positive intentions, but at the same time, being practical. Like today, it was like 5 or 6 hours of working in the yard. We're expanding the chicken coop and chicken run, doing stuff. We got like 10 different raised beds out there. We have a lot of things growing. I have a bunch of watermelon and cantaloupe to harvest as we work on literally turning this into more of a homestead and a place that could really produce some food. And that's what our intention is. Now, we do this with the understanding that in these times, anything could happen anywhere. The best laid plans, right, of mice and men. Well, again, there's so many places out there that are getting hammered in one way or another. The floods we're going to talk about, and then the geopolitical situation.
Yeah, we got definitely a lot of stuff going on. So I hope you guys are going to enjoy it, enjoy each other, enjoy being in the chat because it's always wonderful when we come together and put out high vibes and we push those high vibes out into the world. I know energy for some might be a little bit rough for me. It's been a little bit rough, things going on. Mercury retrograde can dampen communication and just send the wires all crossways and hairy. So let's always keep that in mind, that Mercury retrograde just doing what it does, and it also can bring back old patterns, old pains, old things that were just breaking your heart coming up again, to be reprocessed from a different view or a different perspective. So Mercury retrograde, it has its purpose, and just hang in there, hold on for the ride.
Mercury Kazemi, too, today?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Wild, wild times. Cortez in the house. So let's start over with the Schumann, which is showing some weird signals there. I wonder what's coming. I think a lot of people are wondering what's coming. Again, I think, unfortunately, the last thing you want to hear is that we're in a marathon when the times have been so challenging. We're all ready to shift gears and move in a positive direction, which I think can happen much quicker in each individual's life. But as far as the collective moving and shifting, this whole collective, yeah, that can be a little bit more challenging and take more time.
It can definitely take more time. So just, really be patient. And know that changes are happening. They are afoot, and it's really important that we embrace the positive. And it's really important that we manifest what we want to see out there. So, whenever we do the dings, whenever we are doing any kind of patterning or energy on this channel, which we do like every time we're here, we do a little energy work together. We're manifesting a new world. So, know that you're a part of that. Ground yourself really, really well. Drink a lot of water during these shows, and put your intent out there from what you want to see.
I think there are some things that we could definitely put some hope in and hope to see things expand. This is interesting because these pulses are, rhythmic, and I'm not sure what they're signaling. Is it a collective response to some sort of technology out there? How are your ears? Are you getting any ringing in your ears? How has your sleep been? Share with us. Let us know in the comments down below how sleep has been for you guys. Now, I was checking out the USGS, and in the last 24 hours, wasn't anything enormous or weird or anomalous. 5.5 southeastern Pacific rise you see over here, 5.3, 5.1, and a 5.0 by Tonga. Everything else is under 5. So, again, relatively quiet and calm. But there is this strange unexplained rumbling Mr. MBB has been covering. Parts of Virginia, reports of deep rumbling and brief ground shaking began coming in from multiple communities. People describing a low vibration beneath the ground before everything goes very quiet. Some hear a loud rumble. Others report windows rattling or floors lightly shaking. Well, you don't think about earthquakes that much in Virginia. They do happen. Same thing with West Virginia. In fact, there are ancient faults all through the Appalachians, and it's a real danger, as is the danger of flooding. Holy cow. I wanted to show you Del Rio, Tennessee. I was living in Clyde, North Carolina, which is about 40 miles south of Del Rio, Tennessee. And I did see some flooding the year that I lived there. But man, nothing like what's going on now here. Oh, it is bad. It is bad. Again, this is about an hour away from Asheville. And, there's a lot of homes damaged. Right here, this person says, this is my parents' backyard on the corner of Timber Ridge Road and Dry Fork Road, Cook County. Let's go ahead and bring this one bigger.
Update. The trees are falling from the other side of the creek into the house.
Oh.
Update.
So again, this is basically in between, you could say, Knoxville and Asheville. Beautiful area, very, very green, massive flooding. And it's not the only place. There's been just nonstop flooding events, as the screen's locking up on me here. Yeah, Cindy's going to give us a little sage and try to clear some of this energy. You know, it's unfortunately not the only flooding going on. There's a lot, and it's every single day.
Oh, it is. Yeah, we're gonna try to unlock the computer here. Okay, good. You know, a lot of times it works when when I sage on the computer. It's kind of curious why that is, but I don't know. It works. I'm into what works.
Now, over in Missouri, authorities recovered the body of a woman on the 11th. Victim was reportedly swept away by floodwaters on the 10th. Catastrophic flooding struck much of southeastern Missouri. Over 30 centimeters, 12 inches of rainfall recorded in parts of the region in 24 hours. The Black River rose to record heights. Hundreds of rescues conducted across the state with relief operations ongoing. Yeah, you can see a vehicle under there. Looks like a railroad overcrossing. So this is a sad situation. The woman being swept away by floodwaters, reported missing. Law enforcement personnel were immediately notified, and they did find the body. You know, this is just incredible what we're witnessing here all around the world. And yeah, here in the U.S. as well, Missouri and Tennessee. You know, it's so close to home for so many of us.
It is, and you know, extremes too. So we have extreme drought, and we have extreme rain and flooding. And what's up with that? It's almost like the pendulum couldn't be swinging any wider. Oh my gosh, look at this storm. This is crazy. I mean, it's like you're on a movie set, but it's not a movie set. This is real life. This is somebody's filming this. Oh my gosh, that's insane.
Yeah, that looks really ominous. This is Typhoon Bavi hitting eastern China, made landfall in Zhejiang province late on the 11th. Nearly 2 million people were evacuated ahead of the storm. That's a big evacuation. Parts of the roads submerged, trees were toppled, transport services disrupted. You know, with the typhoon, you expect it. With just the random floods doing, you know, localized smaller, but similar damage, that like what we just saw in Missouri and Tennessee, that's the thing that it really will take you by surprise. 10 foot, I should say 10 meter, 33 foot massive waves. Look at the size of these waves overpouring into the buildings. I really think there's something that we're missing when it comes to water and the earth. Again, what if space is more like an ocean? And sometimes more is brought inside, for lack of a better term, the dome, you know, inside the atmosphere. You got to wonder. Or coming up from below, as, you know, there is more water locked up inside the Earth's crust, they tell us, than there is in the oceans. So if a big portion of that all of a sudden somehow is pulled to the surface, you know, maybe with some sort of huge tectonic, you know, activity, we are heading into like massive earth changes. And, you know, again, there's been so many prophecies about this. Bavi's strongest storm to hit China this year. And, you know, again, it's just a horrible situation. At least 16 people buried after following a landslide. Landslide came in China. There was landslides in Tennessee as well. You know, it's just incredible the damage that's ongoing every single day. And then we got the whole war side of things. You know, it's like this is the last thing we need is the insane leadership of the planet doing this. according to the latest reports, it's just been learned that Iran has completely destroyed U.S. airbase in Kuwait using ballistic missiles. Well, again, in warfare, you have just nonstop cover-ups and lies. You have one side will brag, the other side will say nothing ever happened. It's like fighters. When the fighter is hurt, usually says, "Nah, you didn't do it. You get me. No, I'm fine." When he is hurt, it's again a little bit of the art of war there. So as we see this headline from the Daily Mail, Iran war dramatically reignites. U.S. launches strikes on key targets in response to attack on ship in Strait of Hormuz before Tehran opens fire on 6 American allies. When does this literally expand into something bigger? How long does it last? That only time will tell, because every single one of us has say in this. It's, again, understanding the power of our intentions.
Oh gosh, our intentions, they're very powerful. I think that's one of the best kept secrets of the controllers is, thoughts are things. And that's something I learned when I started studying biofield tuning, is how important your thoughts are when we are putting someone into alignment and patterning them. Their thoughts become, what's in front of you. And manifestation is very real. It's we can all do it, and that's what they want to keep away from us. They want to make us think that we're helpless and we have no power, but that couldn't be further from the truth. The more helpless you feel because an outside source is telling you you're helpless, the more power you have. I guarantee you, because you take everything they say and you turn it around.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jen and the Birds and Cortez and, some of our other dear friends are all actually literally, they're kind of in the same neighborhood at the moment. I saw Cortez was talking about interviewing Jen. That would be really cool. Again, we share with each other everything that we can to try to prepare ourselves for the crazy times we're in. So this is ramping up. Again, you have a Cyprus flag container ship sustained heavy damage after it was targeted on Saturday, U.S. Central Command said. And then, you have the escalation. U.S. forces struck about 140 Iranian military targets with munitions launched by aircraft, drones, and vessels. And Secretary of War Pete Hegseth vowed revenge for the Iranian strike and said Iran made a poor choice. Now they will pay. Well, humans pay everywhere. And meanwhile, at least 6 Middle Eastern countries sounded alarms. Iran claiming responsibility for strikes in Bahrain, Jordan, Kuwait, Oman, and Qatar announced it had intercepted a missile attack. Yeah, it's a mess. And we do, unfortunately, I do think this is going to be a prolonged situation. Look at Ukraine. I mean, that started in February of 2022, still ongoing. It's just ongoing because, again, there's business in war. War is perhaps one of the biggest businesses. War and the health field. I mean, those are two of the biggest businesses on the planet. And there are people that make a ton of money off of war. Let's listen. This is Lindsey Graham, and this is another topic for today. What really happened there? Here, let's listen.
Free or die.
Free or die.
Now you are free.
Yes.
And we will be.
And the Russians are dying. It's the best money we've ever spent.
Listen to that. I mean, okay, so if in case you missed it, Zelensky says, now we are free and the Russians are dying. And Lindsey Graham says some of the best money that we have spent.
Russians are dying. It's the best money we've ever spent.
Thank you so much.
Again, terms like warhawk has been used to describe Lindsey Graham. Let's listen to this little clip from Fox News if they're going to let us play it.
Forget it. I'm not with you. I'm with Israel. I will be with Israel to our dying day. They're the best ally we could hope for. So we have a commander in chief in President Trump, who I think is Ronald Reagan plus, plus, plus.
Actually, before Trump was elected, he said a lot of negative things and even said that Trump would be a disaster. But we know how it is. Politicians, they say one thing one day and next day they'll say something totally the opposite. But a lot of people have made note of this particular statement right here.
Forget it. I'm not with you. I'm with Israel. I will be with Israel to our dying day. They're the best ally we could hope for. So we have a commander.
Yeah, it's interesting that so much is coming out right now. People are learning to read between the lines, learning to sense energy, and go beyond the obvious lies that are given to us by the politicians on a regular basis, because again, they're just here to sell. They are salespeople and they're actors at the same time. Yesterday, U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham visited Ukraine to assure Zelensky of support from the U.S. The warmonger. Now, that word's been used by many, many people to describe Lindsey Graham. He was shown a secret drone manufacturing facility in Kiev. Well, this facility no longer exists after strikes by the Russian MOD. Without warning, 6 missiles struck 2 manufacturing facilities in the Kiev region. The Russian MOD confirmed strikes on drone sites, which started a huge fire. None of Russia's ballistic missiles were shot down. Lindsey Graham is no longer in Ukraine. So, he was visiting here, and then he died. And it was an interesting 48-hour timeline. This is from Russian News. And it says, did Russia just eliminate Lindsey Graham in Kiev? Well, again, he died in his home from a heart attack is what they're telling us. But, again, it's appearances. The U.S. Senator who famously called killing Russians the best investment we ever made, and you heard that statement yourself, died at 70, I think I heard 71, one source saying, following a sudden illness right after his trip to Ukraine. 48-hour death timeline is too wild to ignore. Graham meets Zelensky and tours a hidden drone manufacturing facility in Kiev. Hours later, Russian MOD launches devastating missile attack, completely obliterating that exact factory. Simultaneously, Russian precision missiles level a high-profile hotel in Kiev, packed with top NATO commanders, where Graham was reportedly staying. Graham instantly dies suddenly right after returning home. And there is one photo that's out there that looks like somebody, you can't make it out who, being taken on a gurney. And again, it's hard to say if the photo is real or not. He wanted to bring hellish sanctions to Russia, but looks like he went straight to hell himself, yeah. But the reality is, a lot of people have said that he never met a war he didn't like. And then again, you want to look at his investments too. As we know, there's a lot of people that have made a lot of money investing in the art of war and the weapons of war and knowing when things are going to happen. This is the thing. Knowledge can bring a lot of money to somebody, especially when you know things like, where attacks are going to happen. Russian thinker Alexander Dugin, the sudden death of Lindsey Graham can be a black mark sent to Trump. He says he doubts it was the Iranians. He's thinking it might actually be some allies. Begins with an M. Mossy ad. Yeah. In order to push Trump to go into a full-scale war and just, again, just remind him perhaps who the boss is.
Yeah, I mean, it's that, but now that one seat is empty, truly, what or who is going to fill it, and are they going to be worse?
That seat hasn't been empty in a long time. I mean, he first came geopolitically to the forefront back in '96, I believe. He was elected to the House of Representatives and then became a senator either 2002 or 2003. Because I moved to South Carolina in 2007. And, honestly, it was like people revered him, at least some of the people I was meeting at that point in time. I think it would be a lot different now with a lot of people's opinions. What makes it even stranger, Trump described Saturday night phone call with Lindsey Graham hours before his death. President Trump weighed in on Graham's death, telling Meet the Press that Graham called him in the early evening to tell Trump he was all set for the Save America Act and that it may have been the last call Graham made. What makes it even stranger is I got a call last night, sometimes in, early evening, maybe 7 o'clock, and he called and said, "We're all set for the Save America Act," Trump told host Kristen Walker. He was pushing the Save America Act like crazy. He got back, said he just landed from Ukraine. I said, it's a long trip to make. He notably toured top secret Ukrainian Skyfall drone factory days before his death, where the country's deadly Baba Yaga vampire bomber drones are made. That's curious. He also announced an upcoming Russian sanctions package, said the U.S. can learn a lot from Ukraine's UAV advancements. I believe it would be a huge mistake for America not to cooperate with Ukraine in the field of drones. They are ready to help us because we are ready to support Ukraine in the most difficult times. Yeah, we'll cover this in the timing. When asked about a replacement for Graham, Trump said, "I have somebody I think would be great, but I don't want to say it now because, it's too soon with Lindsey. I don't even want to talk about anybody, but I do have somebody that I think is really good." Again, we're talking South Carolina. In reaction to Graham's death, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky paid tribute, describing Graham as a true defender of freedom and of values that make our world safer. He highlighted that Graham had visited Ukraine 10 times during the war, noting they were in constant dialogue. Zelensky added that Graham has been working on key initiatives in recent weeks to advance peace, including stronger sanctions against Russia. Ukrainian Foreign Minister Andriy Sibha called Graham a true friend and one of the strongest voices supporting Ukraine in its war against Russia. And NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte described Graham as a powerful advocate for America who believes strongly in the NATO alliance. Again, he was a Republican from South Carolina, and he was a congressman for 20 plus years, like 24 years, I think, somewhere around that. That's a long time. When I have brought up about people serving too long, this is exactly what we mean. 20 some years, you get entrenched, and then his net worth goes through the roof because he has all these contacts. He's taking money from all these different sources that are, hoping to make weapons sales, and he's just making sure that there's going to be plenty of weapons sales out there.
Well, yeah, that's just his job. His job is to stamp approval on all death and destruction, and that needs to change. My only concern is, I think maybe a lot of people are out there saying, "Oh, this is really good, but is it? What are they going to put in his place?" I haven't seen things get much better in the world that we live in, with the leaders that we have and the decisions that have been made. I mean, some people that have been put in certain places are very controlling, and they're very pro ouchie, very, very pro ouchie. And they're in some very high places now, and we didn't have that before, but we do now. So what's really going to happen? I think we need to continue to work together to the best of our ability, and forgive each other for our shortcomings, and give each other grace with day-to-day living if you make a mistake or if you say something wrong, and just get along, because their whole goal, they have one common goal, and they forgive each other left and right so that they can meet that goal of to take all power, to take all control. That's their only goal. They don't care what happens on the outside of things. They just all want control. So they work together to get that control.
So, again, and I do think that they know how to hide money. This is the thing. We know they know how to hide money. The whole concept of shell companies and, these different startups that they utilize, they could hide money in a million different places, literally. So most of these official sources, it seems like they're trying to downplay his money. He earned 174,000 annually. And they say he built up, basically between $1 and $3 million in wealth, mostly in mutual and bond funds. But some sources say that he was worth 145, 150 million. Again, I think it could be far more than that because, they never show everything. They know these people. When you look at the tax racket, because it is a racket, it's one in which if you're part of the gang, if you're part of the group, if you're part of a society of secret nature, a club, so to speak, the clubs always take care of their own. And I think that includes hiding wealth. But any way you look at it, yeah, absolutely. Every single person in the Senate is a millionaire. They're all millionaires. Now, of course, millionaires now, having $1 million now is, gosh, it's not like when I was a kid. If we want to take 1976, I was 11. And then $1 million would buy so much more than it does now. That's just obvious. That's the whole nature of fiat currency. It devaluates, and it does it through inflation. And so at the same time, it's not that they're locked into the U.S. dollar. They could be having investments in other currencies around the world. Of course, we have crypto and we have silver and gold, and of course, real estate. You could have real estate that's owned by some sort of shell company. You name it. They hide their wealth. But suffice it to say, he had a lot of benefactors in the military-industrial complex. But he's gone now. So this one's saying, was he poisoned? Why Iran and Russia are at the center of conspiracy theories. Yeah, interesting. Was he poisoned? He really, don't underestimate him as far as his influence in the Senate. Very few people that were more hawkish than Lindsey Graham. He's one of the top ones that was always pushing for war. And again, it just lets you know who is feeding him behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it is. It is. And I mean, if you look, what's really kind of strange right now when I look to see where he's at, if he's not in the body, is I see a nothingness. I see right through it. I see maybe he's cloaked, but I don't see anything. So that makes me very curious, just an NPC or just a drone or, just a nothing. And what was he really? Was he just a programmed drone? Because I'm not seeing anything. And usually that anything and everything that I see means something,
Can you read the energy in this photo?
It feels like there's a funny energy field, almost like he's animated by another force.
Yeah. So one thing that Cindy has been able to see through many years with her psychic development and psychic development is something that I think even 10 years from now, you'll have the vast majority, I would venture, at least the vast majority of people like us that are waking up to the fact that we should have more senses and more sense than we do. Beyond the five senses, humans, we have genes that have been turned off, literally turned off. All the quote unquote junk DNA, nature doesn't make junk. That's been, basically DNA that's been turned off through technologies not unsimilar to like CRISPR. Again, we just were covering Bigfoot in yesterday's live, and really from the point of view of Bigfoot being a manufactured hybrid. And at the end, we're going to be touching on some interesting stuff that the Polish psychic Krzysztof Jackowski got about, what really happened to the dinosaurs. Why did they truly go extinct and what was going on Earth. Some people, they don't seem to have a normal energy body, like people that you would say, people say that there's souled humans and there's NPCs, non-playing characters. That is a touchy subject, and it's something a lot of people don't want to touch. Yet at the same time, how many entities are not really what they look like? Now you have humanoid robots. And if you wonder about key beings, I would say Lindsey Graham was a key being. Gil Bates is one of those key beings. Others, like maybe you guys could just guess. The PFIzer guy, Al Borla, why does he have a throat that literally is like a frog? I mean, no kidding. Some of these people that look like Homo sapiens sapiens, like us, they might not be us. They might not be us. And if there are beings running the show from behind the scenes, they very well might have better android robots or hybrids or human AI robotic hybrids than anything we've ever seen at the fanciest sci-fi expo. Seriously, I kid you not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's something that, we're watching this unfold. And, why watch it? Well, it affects us. It definitely affects us. There's an energy here that can move and shift our reality. And, we want different from what they're putting out there. So, we resist this reality and put our own reality in its place. I think that's what we do.
Cortez says, once the soul goes away, NPC. Yeah, I mean, with these Hollywood stars that aren't that. So the soul is gone, and it's just basically the flesh is being animated by, Draco or some other type of entity.
Well, yeah, because, I look at the energy field in this picture, and it's looks like a portal. Like, I've seen portals. They're it was weird. The first time I saw a portal, it was actually square, like a movie theater, and it was wavy and it was kind of see-through, almost like a heat wave. And that's what I see around him. I don't see any color, no color. And the color is important. That's the frequency people are vibing at. But there's no color here. So it's like he's just walking, he's being animated by a portal of energy is all.
This is Invasion of the Body Snatchers. They tell you everything through the movies. So Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the original soul makes a deal with the devil, so to speak. And at some point in time, it's nudged out, literally nudged out, and they keep the animated flesh suit, and they occupy the animated flesh suit.
Yeah, I think they have several different modalities, and this is one.
Yeah, looks like an AI insert. Yeah, absolutely. So, to me, what is the big deal about Lindsey Graham going? To me, it's almost like as if all of a sudden we woke up and we found out Gil Bates had a heart attack. It's somebody that I feel was an important central piece of the dark control matrix of the deepest deep state, and they're no longer in that position. Is it that literally the frequencies are making them break down? It could be, or again, there's always been this talk about, again, the white hats, which, again, I think they've done a lot of that. They've manipulated that to give us a little bit of false hope, but at the same time, maybe this was some sort of white hat, black hat event in which there's a major character that can no longer be utilized.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
So, yeah, very, very interesting to say the least. Because really, when you look at Lindsey, when you look at Gil Bates, it's the same thing. It's like they're shells. When you looked at Biden and, some of the Bidens, they're like shells. And this article is from a couple years back, but it's talking about back in 1975. More than 30 years of almost unrestricted CIA activity came grinding to a halt before Senator Frank Church on Capitol Hill After the shocking revelations of the Watergate scandal, the American public had suddenly gained an intense interest in the activities of the intelligence agencies. Unable to resist the growing disquiet any longer, Congress was forced to peer into the dark corners of the Cold War and some secrets, like this heart attack gun, which literally shot like a shellfish toxin and would induce a heart attack. That's very, very rudimentary. It's not high tech, but there's other things besides this. So you could wonder, again, was he poisoned? Was he hit with some sort of frequency weapon, or is this really a shell? This whole story was simply the body falling apart, and the host couldn't use it anymore. So maybe that host has moved on to another body.
Well, he played his part, and this is the next scene, so they have to close the curtain to animate and dress another one up and open the curtain again. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's interesting. Again, the frequency weapons, there's so many things that have been declassified right now. How about all the nanotechnology? And then you have Zelensky announcing a major government reshuffle. I forget which one of them it was. I think it was the Polish psychic had said I don't think Zelensky's going to make the year. He's also going to probably be meeting his end. Do you see? Is he his energy body?
His energy seems very similar. It also feels very animated with that wavy energy that's see-through, like a heat wave around him, is what I see.
So there's
no color. There's no color.
There's no color around him. So he doesn't have a typical aura. So in other words, again, this is a body that's being controlled by somebody else that's probably not human.
Body snatchers.
Yeah, it really is. So, it's interesting. But yeah, Prime Minister Yulia Sverdenko confirming the immediate overhaul of the cabinet. Changes going on. So are things starting to fall apart a little bit for the deep state? Certainly hope so. Certainly hope so. Because again, we want peace. Now, this seems like code. This seems like code. Listen to these words.
We have an aircraft carrier, which is one of the most beautiful in the world. It's one of the biggest, the Abraham Lincoln. And 2 months ago, we had 100, I told this story yesterday, we had 111 missiles shot by the Islamic Republic of Japan. They were shot at the aircraft.
Did you hear? 111 missiles shot. 111. By the what?
I told this story yesterday. We had 111 missiles shot by the Islamic Republic of Japan.
There is no Islamic Republic of Japan. I mean, are they feigning, or is he really senile? Is he going senile? Has he got dementia? I think they want to get us going down that line, for the script, the story. Islamic Republic of Japan? I mean, that's pretty funny.
Well, I feel it's not anything, but it is a code.
It feels like a code. Islamic Republic of Japan. I don't know. We should do, maybe Robbie, you could do a remote viewing, you and Emma, look into the Islamic Republic of Japan, and that's pretty wild. Now, 111 is a master number, and this is code. This is some sort of code.
Definitely.
How does this energy look? Does this look like a normal human?
None of these guys look normal, but this one does have more color than the other two.
Okay. Yeah, I think that they are all under the influence of certain energies and certain consciousnesses. 111 missiles shot by the Islamic Republic of Japan. Oh my God. In order to confuse your enemy, you must first confuse yourself. I like that one. Oh man. What do you make of that, guys? That's wild. And then we have this. And then we have this. This is Delcy Rodriguez, right? Isn't that? I think that's what her name was, Delcy Rodriguez. She was the VP. After when they snatched Maduro, she became the head puppet. Venezuela's asking the UK to release its gold. What? Yeah.
I have decided to send a letter, among others, to the King of England, asking for the gold being held at the Bank of England to be released. That gold belongs to our people, and it must be used to address the terrible, tragic consequences of this double earthquake. Venezuela has the resources to recover and to get back on its feet.
What's the King of England doing with all the gold in Venezuela? Hello, people will say the King of England, it's all symbolic. But the reality is, who technically legally owns 90% of Canada, Australia, and New Zealand? Technically, the King of England does. That's the reality. Technically, the rest of the government is, supposedly running everything. But then when you get down to it legally, it still really is a case where the monarchy literally holds all the money and the power. And why do they have the gold of Venezuela?
I know, right? It's gotta ask the question.
I mean, seriously. Okay, so the U.S. swoops in, takes Maduro, and apparently took the Venezuelan gold and gave it to King Charles? Please explain, Lucy. Explain.
There you go. Now you know. He who has the gold makes the rules and follow the money, right?
Well, we do know there was a famous family, again, the Red Shields. They said they don't care what puppet's on the throne. They control the money. They control everything. They control the puppets. Well, here you go. We had said that all these governments, they are all basically like cartels. They really are. And here you go. They just stole all Venezuela's gold and gave it to the King of England. Wait a minute. Do you mean the U.S. is still technically also being controlled by the King of England?
Yeah, seems kind of interesting.
Okay, so Pinch Runner says these countries voluntarily put their gold into New York City Fed and the Bank of England many, many years ago in post-World War II. Yeah, they just handed over to the Red Shields. Here you go for safekeeping. Not that you're ever going to see it again. Again, this is the stuff that they tell us, but we have to look into it in reality. The banking system. Without the banking system, it all collapses. And again, this is part of that manipulation. It's like when the mob comes knocking at your door. And they say you need to invest with something. Well, if you don't invest, you end up with 2 mega earthquakes, and you end up with sanctions, and you end up with citizens killing cows on farms and chopping the cows up in the field because they're so hungry there's no food. So again, this is truly a big expose because I think again it's that mafia, like, if you know what's good for you, you will buy our insurance and you will invest your gold in our banks where it's nice and safe. Give it to us. We'll watch over it. Sure.
Well, I think it's all crime. It's just there's different layers of crime. There's highly, highly, highly organized crime, and that's what we have running everything. And then, then you go on down. But ultimately, what with these mafia beings, what they don't like is any competition. So they're going to take care of any and all competition so they can control everything. They want to be the drug runners. They want to be the pushers. They want to be the top ones anyway. And they want to control it, to a very high degree. So yeah, it's not the world that I want my children and grandchildren to grow up in. We got to think of the kids.
All we see is decay covering the human toll in Venezuela's earthquakes. Death toll over 4,000 now. Families continue to hold out hope that some loved ones might still be found. Very, very, very sad situation. This was the beginning of a much bigger series that's coming, much, much bigger. True earth changes are coming, but I really think this was technology. Yeah, absolutely. I think, again, it makes sense to me that, when you talk about these mafia-like entities, that we call governments, a lot of times, they'll use technologies to make a point. And at the same time, I do think that the earth herself will ultimately, shed them like fleas with some major shedding and shaking that's going to be coming. And we could kind of feel the build up to it. But when you look at this, Venezuela, after all that they've been through, it's just so sad. And that, the gold that country had is in the storage facilities of the King of England, apparently. Man, that is so seriously telling. Again, there was 7 countries in this. Let's just do this. Take 5 minutes to do this. I'll hand it off to Cindy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so let's take a look at some different things so we can put the puzzle pieces together and bring a little more understanding. When you understand something, including yourself, that's very, very helpful through life. When you know how you are and how you're going to react to a certain deed or thing, that helps.
Yeah, way back in a long, long time ago, General Wesley Clark talked about that he was handed a memo with a plan after 9/11 happened that would take out these countries in 5 years. They wanted to knock them all out in 5 years. So Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Iran. And when you look at these countries, you also, you can see that all of them have been hit now at this point. Remember, what's her name? Hillary trolling about Gaddafi, we came, we saw, he died, that whole statement. And she was like a witch cackling, literally thrilled. And the other thing is that when you look to these countries, when you go back, these were some of the countries that were the only ones that did not have Rothschild banking system in place. So ultimately, this is always about forcing people to play the game with, the deep state monopoly money.
Indeed.
Yeah, that's ultimately it. And now Iran, there we go. We're on the last leg here with Iran. So, again, this has been planned for a very long time, but it's all about the Rothschild banking system. So again, we send our prayers to everybody over there in Venezuela going through all that they're going through. Now, here you go. This is some talking going on about the data centers.
One farmer who lives right next to a data center, not a new calf since they built that data center. The noise is called nothing but stillbirths. So it's doing that to cattle. What is it going to be doing to our kids? What is it going to be doing to our family members? Texas law says that every homeowner has the right to quiet enjoyment of their property. How are they going to have that if they create this noise, they create this heat, they jack up our water bills, they jack up our power bills? That violates right to quiet enjoyment. There is a part of me that one farmer who lives right next to a data.
Yeah, not one calf born. Not one new calf since the data center went in place. Again, who okayed all this? As we know, it's coming out that this was just ramrodded through so fast. People were paid off so quick. that, so many got built before anybody had a chance to say a word.
Yeah, that was purposeful, huh?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that is a red line, really. If they did get what they wanted with the data centers, there are those that believe it might mean that Homo sapiens will become just like Neanderthal and Denisovan, if you know what I mean. A new report has linked Amazon data centers in the U.S. to certain rare cancers and miscarriages. Yeah, this just goes on and on. People, I think, can sense that these things need to be stopped.
Well, they're definitely not for, humans to thrive.
No, and there's a lot of gifted psychics and remote viewers that have looked into this, and they could see there's many different layers to this. And ultimately, this ends up pointing to control over human population, control perhaps over even the human mind. And statins are stealing your brain and your voice. They cause dysphagia, memory loss, dementia. FDA knew about this since 2012, added warnings. Dr. Brian Ardis drops the truth. Yeah, absolutely. Again, they've changed over the years. Blood pressure recommendations, we've shown that blood pressure recommendations have drastically changed, and they've changed also what they say your cholesterol should be. But at the same time, I always buy full fat everything. I never buy low fat, never buy non-fat, because there's essential fatty acids. There are essential amino acids. There's no such thing as essential carbohydrates.
Right. There's just, they stripped away all of our nutritional value, everything.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but what we have then is this rise in the cholesterol drugs, which ends up, is it connected? Question mark. To a rise in dementia, Alzheimer's, multiple sclerosis, so many other things that you need healthy fats for.
A lot. Yes, you do. It's just true.
Yeah, absolutely. The deterioration of the myelin sheaths, which, again, you need cholesterol to repair those things. It's just, it's amazing how everything was controlled by these shadowy groups. And then we have the WHO criminal racketeering organization founded by eugenicists since 1953. Yeah, absolutely. Again, when you look again to the Gates guy, and you look at his, the association with population control, and you look at his family lineage, and, again, there are those that think he's actually a Rockefeller. At least the body was, again, just a meat puppet now. But the realization is that you take control of the schooling, you change the way the schooling and the education process is. You give grants. You look like you're just a wonderful humanitarian. Oh, yeah, we're founding this college, this Institute of Higher Learning. But what you're learning is not about what nature has already given us. No, it's how can we take what nature gave us, patent it. You're going to have to change it to patent it. And then you could declare that that's yours with your patent. Then you get the profits. And yet, all the natural buffers that Mother Nature, or if we want to look at it like very, very advanced beings, decided to put here on the planet. Because, again, I do believe that Earth was like terraformed. I think that, yeah, there was intentional planning here to make this place have everything that we would need. And so when you look to the natural way of taking things like herbs and different, again, let the fruit be your food and let the plant, the herbs and the leaves be your medicine. It's in the Bible too. Again, it was all given to us in a form that is easier for us to process without the problems that arise when you take out a lot of these natural buffers. And I hope that makes sense to people.
Yeah, they just want to disconnect us from source completely.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a disconnect. This poor person, man, her background's in critical care. My background is in critical care. I work through the pandemic,
My background is in critical care, and I worked throughout the pandemic in the ICU directly caring for COVID patients.
Yeah, and that she will not stay silent because, again, people weren't given choices as much as they say they were. There was things that we know that shouldn't have been done, and we lost tons of lives unnecessarily. And people were bullied. People were forced. Cindy gave you a vision going back at the very beginning of the plague upon the land. I think it was probably 2021, 2022. At some point in time, they're going to set up part of universal basic income. Anybody that did do what they wanted you to do, you'll have to prove your case in some way, shape, or form, but then they will give you something like a disability type thing.
Yeah, it'll be like the beginning, opening the door to UBI, and the AI right now is going to help kind of, hurry that along, because so many people are losing their jobs, and as far as what are our children going to do, what should they be learning? I've been concerned about my my grands, what are they going to do? And the thing is they want you to, some of the better ideas are learn something like plumbing, learn the old trades, learn anything that you're using your hands, because anything that is using a human mind is probably going to get replaced, unless you know how to work with AI, and I don't even think that the what they call AI is really AI right now. I think there's a lot of smoke in that, but still it is taking people's jobs. But I do think it's a little bit funny because they're also having to call a lot of people back because of the destruction that AI did. So, I mean, it's give and take, but as we grow and learn, we need to learn to do stuff that machines cannot do.
Yeah, I do think AI could be a benefit, but it's really the fact that the system uses it to their benefit to keep us under control and in the dark. When you look at all the experiments again that NAZI Germany was doing, they were doing all sorts of crazy experiments. If you haven't heard of some of the bizarre things that people like Joseph Mengele was doing, it's like a nightmare scenario. In some ways, it's like the island of Dr. Moreau with Frankenstein and, it just Hannibal Lecter thrown in. I mean, it's just craziness. And when the U.S. took in as many of the top brains and minds from Nazi Germany as they could, and Russia took in some too, Operation Paperclip. Again, then you had Werner von Braun become the head of NASA. And Arthur Rudolph, NASA rocket science, and Herman Oberth, another NASA rocket science. We took them in. And we also were, in my opinion, dealing with what we would call the Greys and reptilians and fallen Pleiadians, again, that are working with the Draconians. We took them in too, and deals working with them. Which again, they have their own agenda. And I think what the reality is understanding that there's various forms, there's different ultra-terrestrial groups that are literally battling each other through us, literally using us as a resource to, push their own agendas. Humans are nothing but pawns and also a resource and a food source for some of these extraterrestrials as they work against each other. The wars of the gods were very, very real. The wars of, again, the Titans and the Elder Gods. In the Norse world, you had the Seer against the Vanir. We have the Asuras against the Devas. It's just this eternal war between these different groups. And now through channeled material, we're finding there is this collective story that's coming out. Again, the Draco or Draconian Lyran Wars, of which we are a part of. And literally, this planet that we're on right now was basically destroyed and rebirthed because of the wars that were brought here by these other beings. And they're still doing their own thing, these different agendas. I think, again, where we are vibrationally is an interesting place because, unfortunately, you have a wide, or fortunately, and that leads to a lot of growth, you have a wide berth. There's many, many different beings. And I think most of the beings in the universe would be what we would call benevolent, especially as we go through the different densities. When you start moving up past the lower fourth density, beings have a much better understanding of the oneness of all things. And so there's a lot more ahimsa, nonviolence, no harm being practiced on the higher densities. Unfortunately, where we are, it's an area that has an awful lot of heavy duality.
Yeah, duality. In some ways we really need the duality, but I don't think it has to be so destructive. It does not need to be destructive. There's certain things that you can use with the energy of anger that are productive. And the problem is we're using on that scale of frequency for, anger as far as productive anger and destructive anger. There's still too much destructive anger. Humans, we got to do better. We need to put it out there that we're getting better and we're doing better every day. But there's just still too much destruction to some of those lower frequencies when that doesn't need to be our truth.
No. So this is talking about how the sinister accomplices of Herr Hitler, when they got transplanted, their experiments came with them in many cases, and they continued on with the things they were working on. But it would be just simply for the benefit of the U.S. military side, again, as opposed to the Nazi Germany side. And yeah, when you look at it, the reality is, again, I think we've been surrounded by all black hats, or you could actually say gray hats, and there's various shades of gray. Because when you look at it, the book of Job, where it's God and Satan, God and the devil, basically both taking turns torturing a man and his family, that's not nice on either side. And I think, again, what that's symbolizing is the Anunnaki side of things and the reptilian side of things. And they both were basically out to use us for their own resources and purposes. So none of them really cared about us. None of them looked at us in a light of anything other than a resource. So when you look at these type of experiments and you wonder why do people look for gain of function? Well, why are you going to make something that's nasty worse? This is what they were doing back then. And it's because this is a bigger war. This is a galactic war, and it's interdimensional as well as, it's galactic in nature. It's very large. There's lots of beings involved in this. We're just one tiny little outpost on the edge of the galaxy there. So this one, Dr. Friedrich Fritz Hoffmann, a chemist, synthesized poison gases and toxins for the Luftwaffe's Technical Research Institute, Berlin. Fourth paperclip scientist to arrive at Edgewood Arsenal in 1947. His experience researching truth serums and nerve gas for the Nazis made him sought after as a paperclip recruit. Hoffman continued his experiments refining lethal sarin and taboo gases for warfare objectives, utilizing a specially built gas chamber put together along with Edgewood Arsenal Research Chief Dr. Seymour Silver, within which countless animals were destroyed and at least 25 alleged volunteer American servicemen were experimented upon. And it goes on, oxygen deprivation experiments. We could look, did our government ever do anything to us without us knowing? All the time, hundreds of times, thousands of times. I don't know how many times, but Operation Sea Spray, they sprayed San Francisco Harbor. Operation Popeye, they used weather control to flood away Vietnamese villages in the Vietnam War 50 plus years ago. So does that make you look at everything that's happening weather-wise with a different, perspective?
Yes, indeed.
And this is RFK here. Let's see what he has to say today.
CMS, the Center for Medicaid and Medicare Services, is issuing billing guidance that allows clinicians to get paid for de-prescribing work for the first time. Care plans.
Paid for de-prescribing. Wait a minute. Because they've been getting bonuses on the amount of prescriptions that they sell. This is fact. They try to hide that. But yeah, absolutely. The more prescriptions that go out there, whatever it is, the more bonuses you're going to get. And the bonuses could be far more than many people's salary, and literally, be in the millions. They're actually changing it so that if you're getting people off of big pharma, then you could actually make money. I mean, that makes perfect sense. Now, is it too little, too late? Maybe. Certainly for some people. And I always look at things very cynically now. I don't know why I've gotten to be so cynical when it comes to politicians.
I'm a little bit cynical myself, but this is important that it's even being spoken, because there's medicines out there that are so hard to get off of. It's not even funny that I was on antidepressants that were very difficult to get off of. The doctors just didn't know what to do with my mind. I was pulling in too much information. There were too many conversations. I couldn't shut it down. And I didn't know what was going on. So that's part of the reason I'm here, because there's a lot of us out there who have, these abilities, and we're just not able to quite control it. But what I was doing is I asked the doctors to help me. Can you help me get off of these? And they looked me straight in the eye and flat out said no. And these were medicines that they would want you to go into a hospital to get off of, because you have seizures and all kinds of weird reactions. And it took me about 3 years, and I literally went down by crumbs. And this is just my own personal story. I'm not telling anyone to do anything at all in any way. It was a very personal choice for me. It was very, very hard, because I was facing things like, death, and that's a personal thing. You have to be ready. And I was ready, and I could just feel it. And I went down by crumbs. I took my time. It took me some years, but I did it. And I'm here to, if I can, give words of encouragement to others who might be on the same path. But you can only do what you can do. Do not force anything. But I'm just so glad, because I didn't have doctors to help me. I had me, and that was it. That was it. And luckily on that journey, Mike showed up, and that was really, I've healed from so many things. I mean, I've had so many things wrong with me, and I've healed from half of them just through diet and exercise and Qigong and energy work. That didn't cost anything. That cost me my time. So I'm very serious about it. But, this brings me a lot of hope. People need help with this. They need help. And I love it. That's what doctors should be paid, to keep people well. Not, it just makes no sense. A system who thrives on people being sick, giving them out pills to keep them sick. It makes no sense, but people keep going. Half of their week is chalked up with doctor's appointments. That's your outing for the day, is a doctor's appointment. It doesn't need to be that way. So this brings me a lot of hope.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And thank you guys for the comments. U.S. senators just put Jared Kushner maybe under investigation for getting billions from the Middle East while shaping U.S. foreign policy. This over here is again, is it another sign? Will anything get done? It just seems like we never see anything really happen. In fact, what's his name? Thomas Massey was just making a speech about getting his bill passed, and again, will anything happen? That's what he says. Will anything ever happen? Because billionaires give all you guys in Congress tons of money, and they expect you to keep them with the lifestyle, and living the life that they currently are, even when they're breaking laws and hurting people. And so, it really is. It's time to put them all on notice, all of them. And then this is John Ramirez talking about the alien hybrid program, which is very real.
Has there ever been a situation that you were in where you've gotten confirmation of government's involvement with human alien hybrids?
Yes.
Okay. From a credible source, you could say.
Yes.
They know about the hybrids.
Yes.
I mean, gun to your head right now, you would say absolutely.
Absolutely. Yes.
They were able to collect DNA from aliens.
John Ramirez, former CIA officer, 25-year career.
CIA.
And he talks about the CIA having a program, and it is an alien hybrid program. Well, again, this is what these beings are. They are geneticists. This is what they do. They create species for purposes, certain purposes. Why do we have so much junk DNA? Because, again, the ones that came before us, our ancestors, were too much problem to control. And in reality, they're kind of terrified of us because our potential is higher than theirs. When we're talking about the ones that we talk as the deep state, the dark control matrix themselves. There are beings out there that are God-like, truly God-like. But really, when we talk about the ones that are usually given titles like gods, they're really much more demonic when you get down to it. But there are these programs that are very real, been ongoing for a very long time. They're looking for different alien DNA in certain families. I really think that Hitler wasn't exterminating the group or groups that were told. I think it had a lot more to do with really looking for genetic markers for people that could develop certain abilities, psychic gifts, powers and abilities that would make them dangerous. I think that's what they were looking for. People that would be mutating and become uncontrollable. Think about, again, when we look to all the Marvel comics and stuff, if you have a population that is going to be developing these like superhero type powers, that's going to be a big problem.
Yeah, it's going to be a problem.
So, they're watching, they're looking. The DNA is everything to them. And the reality of how life is here on Earth. Christoph was asked, what really killed the dinosaurs? What really killed the dinosaurs? And he's remote viewing. He's using his psychic gifts. He's not technically remote viewing because, again, he's just going off the impressions. He's not using any one set of rules. Again, this is a world where things get trademarked and patented, and it's all about profits. Can you imagine if we didn't do things that way? If we just looked for the greater good all the time? Boy, we could change things. So he says, I smelled a smell. Sulfur. And he feels that the earth was much warmer back in the day when the dinosaurs were living. And he goes into a lot of details talking about feathers, and a lot of the dinosaurs are actually more like avian, more like birds. And I know a lot of people believe that all dinosaurs were dragons. I think there are dragons, and I think there were also what we classify as dinosaurs. And over here in this one section, they had a hard time they try to keep from all this coming out. But what's interesting is he didn't see an asteroid per se or anything coming in, but he did see a massive Earth split. There you go. The Earth splits with such a powerful earthquake on the ground, literally sends in motion the movement of our modern continents. Part of the Earth broke and the Earth's core spills out, leaks through the cracks. There's gases that come out. It's the gases, for the most part, that killed the dinosaurs, the toxic gases. This is, I feel like I just really want to share with you guys. There's another gifted Hindu astrologer, psychic, and her, and then this other psychic who's also very gifted. They did a show together, and it just put so many things together between what Christoph was getting, what Tarot by Isabella was getting. Michelle Robinson is a good psychic too. I think she's pretty good. And then the other lady's name, I believe, is Beninda. I'd have to look it up again. I'll get it for another video. But the thing that concerned me was two psychics were picking up on an event this year that they see coming. I do think, again, timelines are tricky, so it might not be this year. But I think, again, we look to Ryo Tatsuki with her forecast of this huge Japanese quake that would be probably a 9.5, literally change islands, change the way, the entire surface of that area is. Well, we've seen a little bit of that with the Venezuela quakes, Part of that area has dropped. Part of that area has risen. It really is that was a big change to the surface. So anyway, they're seeing two events with a volcanic sort of eruption or explosion underwater that's going to release toxic gases. And one place is around Taiwan, Japan. The other place that they're seeing is around Canada, Alaska. And I'll give you all the links for the next video, because I wasn't intending on mentioning this, but it keeps bothering me. So, maybe it isn't going to be this year, maybe it's a year or two, but it feels like there's something like that coming. And when Christoph was talking about this, the fact that it was the toxic gases that were released from inside the Earth that really killed most of them off, well, then I think about the big Earth changes that are coming and wonder if it's just kind of like part of that same cycle again being induced, partly, and partly also the reaction of Mother Earth.
Yeah, I think so.
So it's interesting, to see this. But there's also more in here that's really fascinating, because what does he see? This is happening. He's seeing this great destruction. And then what is he seeing? He's seeing souls coming to the planet during the death and destruction. Not souls leaving, not the souls of the dinosaurs necessarily leaving. He sees that there's other souls coming into the planet. Because what does it do? The changing, the death of certain species provides an opportunity for new species to come and other souls to incarnate, where certain souls were incarnating here at that point in time. And let's just say this was Earth that was under more of a complete reptilian control. And this is part of why the Draco say that they lay claim to Earth, because they say they were the first ones on here, were reptilian beings. But it provided the opportunity for a lot of souls to come to Earth that would eventually become human souls and more mammal souls. So interesting, because at first his religious programming was making him convinced that there was some sort of sin, and these were fallen souls coming in. And then he caught himself and said, nope, these souls are more like messengers. They're not fallen. He's not getting that it was sin, but he found it very fascinating that in this period of tremendous collapse because of this gigantic cataclysm leading to such a colossal mass extinction, it paved the way for many other different souls to come in and incarnate.
It is fascinating to do this work, and one of the things that I learned that's most important is you have to lay down your belief system. You have to put everything down, because otherwise you could miss stuff. And you want to look at as much stuff as possible so that you can start having these visions and pulling it all together, minus those bars, of belief. Those bars of belief are just that, those are your prison bars. That's the only thing keeping you in the mindset. So it is fun when you put the belief system down and you just allow energy to be seen.
Technology has advanced a lot lately, but, still there's just some things that are kind of crazy. And this is one of them.
Isn't it cute? I'm sure his mama's proud.
Yeah, I'm sure his mama's proud, but whoever owns that car is not going to be happy.
I don't think so. It's pretty good.
So, guys, thank you for joining us. I hope you found this interesting, thought-provoking. Again, we couldn't do it without you guys. Thank you for your support. Also, we look forward to seeing you guys at Patreon. Again, Patreon exclusive videos going up typically on a weekly basis, also on YouTube with memberships. So we thank you. And Cindy's going to give us some dings, and I'm going to put out there, Loka Samasta Suki no Bhavantu. May all beings everywhere be happy and free, and may our words, thoughts, acts, and deeds contribute to the happiness and freedom of all.
Source bless and namaste.
Much love and gratitude, guys. Namaste.